how do you handle sleep at high altitude? Does altitude sickness get worse at night?
Oftentimes it does. So, say for example, if you're talking about a multi-day trip, a mountain that needs multiple days to climb it, and you're going to be camping or sleeping somewhere overnight, some people do report worse symptoms overnight, and I think that's probably a combination of reasons, really. Usually, I think it's because if you've been walking or traveling to get to a certain altitude, and then that's where you're going to sleep that night. You've probably ascended altitude that day, so you've gone up in altitude, so you're getting to an area where there's less and less oxygen. So it's the body is just having to adapt and, as I say, acclimatise to that new altitude and that new oxygen level. And symptoms can sometimes take a few hours to develop. So say if you arrive there in the afternoon or early evening, the symptoms are going to be worse overnight just because you've been there for a few hours. However, it's also definitely proved that our oxygen saturation, so what the amount of oxygen that is actually going around in our bloodstream, drops overnight. So what this means is, again, that our body is struggling, I suppose, because of that low oxygen to function normally. So that's going to affect our sleep. The other thing that also happens overnight is we have something called periodic breathing, where the pattern of our breathing changes overnight due to high altitude and due to that low oxygen level. And it can sometimes mean that we breathe very quickly for a short period of time, and then we breathe really slowly, and we can sometimes even stop breathing for sort of 5, 10, 20, sometimes even longer, 30 seconds overnight. And even if it doesn't wake you up from sleep, it does disrupt your sleep quality. So you might wake up in the morning thinking, oh gosh, that was a really bad night's sleep, even if you actually were asleep for 7 or 8 hours or not, or longer. The other thing that can happen is when we go to high altitude, we pee more. So we try to get rid of fluid, basically, to try to increase our concentration of red blood cells, which are carrying the oxygen around. So it's all to try and increase the efficiency of getting oxygen around the body, basically. So we go for a wee a couple of times more in a 24-hour period, and oftentimes that's at night. So you probably find you're getting up in the night to go to the toilet when maybe you wouldn't normally do that at home. So I think a combination of those things basically means that sleep is pretty disturbed at high altitude. Which is a shame, but there's a number of things that we can do to hopefully improve that. So really basic things, and it's all sort of sleep hygiene stuff. So making sure that you stay really well hydrated during the day, and then try to not drink loads straight before bed because you're going to be up in the night. Trying to avoid caffeine sort of after lunchtime, avoiding alcohol, getting as much rest as possible. And I always say at high altitude, if you've got any time to go and have a little lie down and a nap, go and do it, because if you can't have really good quality sleep, you might as well try and get as much quantity. And making sure that you're helping yourself get to sleep at night time by trying to be as relaxed as possible. So whether that's listening to music or reading a book or whatever you find helpful at home, just to try and make sure that you falling to sleep as quickly as possible and hopefully getting as much sleep as you can.